Lately this offseason, we've seen countless changes. Players switching teams, signing contracts, and a select few deciding to hang up the skates for good. But now that all the chaos and madness has settled down, I thought there was no better time than now to go over each vacancy in the league currently, and who I think would be the best fit for captain. Keep in mind, this isn't going to be centered around points at all, and it's not really going to be scripted, because you guys gave me some great feedback and freestyling it here. So let's get to it, shall we? The Vegas Golden Knights have never had a captain, and so I feel like this first captain, once he's announced, it's going to be a big deal. Obviously, as you can tell, I had Mark Stone as my choice. I would have had probably maybe Schmidt, maybe Marchessault, guys that have been there for a very long time, but I felt like the way that the city kind of embraced Mark Stone early on. I remember when he got to Vegas, there was just a ton of people just met him right there at the airport, I guess associated with the team, but it was from then on that the city just completely embraced him. His teammates just completely seemed to embrace him, from what I could tell. Obviously, there's going to be a captain announced. As DeBoer said this summer, the team would announce a captain before the 2021 season, so there's definitely going to be a guy getting the C. This isn't the be-all end-all, obviously. I'm not saying that Stone's going to get it 100%. But my reasoning was, well, for one, he just completely committed long-term as soon as Vegas acquired him. He just went in and signed an 8-year, $76 million contract. So right in, from the get-go, he was all in. And that's obviously a good sign from a player. I mean, when they buy into what you have to offer and your system and your team and things like that, the culture. Another was that he kind of reminds me of Nick Foligno as far as like, he brings emotion to the game. Foligno definitely brings that, and I mean, that's why he's worked out so well, I think, in my opinion, as a captain for the Jackets. And I feel like Mark Stone really has that. He's also a team player as well, so he plays very well on both sides of the ice. And in my opinion, that's what you would want from your captain. You want him to be just a complete team player, just going, both ends of the ice, not necessarily just standing there and waiting for the puck to come to his stick blade, but also getting involved in other areas of the ice. So he does that. Also, he's not afraid to stick up for his teammates at all or get physical when need be. And like I said, he seems to fit in well with the team and the city. He seems, like I said, to be really well liked by the fans and the fan base. So obviously that's something that you want to have once you announce a captain. You want them to not hate the guy that's representing your team. So Stone's got that going for him as well. This one was probably one of the few that's like more controversial just because of age. Probably one that maybe, I guess people may question a little bit more than the others. But I had Brady Tkachuk for Ottawa. He's 21 years old, so he's, kind of young. Their last captain was ERIK KARLSSON, who went to the Sharks, obviously. So he's the youngest on this list. That would be a little troubling if he wasn't. Anyways, so hypothetically, if he were given the captaincy, he would be the youngest in Senators history as a captain at 21. But it may seem a little premature to speculate this or to see Tkachuk as a captain so early in his career, but for me personally, my reasoning for it is his work ethic. I just think that he has just a tremendous work ethic about him. He's leading by example on the ice. He does that so well as far as he makes everyone hate him just by the things that he does. He's so physical. He's, in front of the net, getting that net front presence that you want. He's not afraid to just get in there and basically shove people out of the way. He just doesn't care. He also has that knack for getting into it with goalies as well, which is pretty, it's pretty entertaining, but it's a Tkachuk thing. Anyways, I definitely see potential there. I mean, like I said, he's a little bit young, and this isn't really about points. Some teams, they seem to just crown their best player captain and just that's that, but it's not all about points here, obviously. He also is really, really quick to protect his teammates. Anyone that is messing with anyone on his team, he'll jump in there. I think sometimes he just looks for a reason, honestly, to jump into it. So I think, in my opinion, the guy that is most willing to jump in for his teammates and also works the hardest, in my opinion, out of all the guys on that team, I mean, it's Brady Tkachuk. Definitely would be interesting, like seeing Tkachuk captain. I mean, like his dad was as well, so that would be cool. I feel like if they did give it to Tkachuk, it would hypothetically send the right message as far as the rebuild is concerned, because he's been there through most of it. I mean, he's obviously young, but it would kind of, I think, be the beginning maybe of a new era and kind of like turning the page. Obviously, like, no one's there from the 2017 Eastern Conference Finals run, so I mean, that can tell you the amount of turnover that this team has had. But I see Tkachuk completely embracing the captaincy, even if it was given to him at an early age. Even though you might disagree with me, but that's completely okay if you do. Moving on, New York Rangers, I had Mika Zibanejad. He's 27, and their last captain was Ryan McDonough. This was another one, I wouldn't say I was on the fence with Tkachuk, but this was one that I was definitely a little bit torn between him and Chris Kreider. But I feel like Zibanejad made sense, as he's just completely loved by Rangers fans, 110%. He's had experience as alternate captain, he's a team player, he's morphed into a great two-way forward that plays a balanced game. He's not afraid to play on both ends. He seems to have an infectious personality and just get along with everyone. Also, I had a quote here from Coach David Quinn. "I didn't know he was this good when I took the job. He has such passion for the game, and he wants to be the best player he can possibly be. Comes every day and works hard. He's everything you want in your best player," he says. You don't always have to have your best player being captain, and people might argue Panarin or Kreider or whoever should be captain, but this was my pick, so take it or leave it. For Detroit, I had Dylan Larkin, 24 years old, and the last captain for Detroit was HENRIK ZETTERBERG. Steve Yzerman definitely confirmed for sure that the team will name a captain prior to the 2020-21 season as well, like similarly to some other teams that have already kind of come out and already said it. Similarly to Tkachuk, Larkin is on the younger side, but my reasoning was he's been an integral part of the team during the rebuild, just like Tkachuk has been. He's also had the privilege of playing with a tremendous leader in HENRIK ZETTERBERG. He had the privilege of learning from him before ZETTERBERG retired. He's an alternate captain, and it also would have more, I think, of a sentimental move too on their end, because, I mean, he was obviously raised in Detroit. He's from Michigan. He played college hockey for the University of Michigan. So there's a lot of things to take in consideration as to why Larkin would be the best choice. I think it would be ideal also him being from Michigan. And I also added in another quote from Detroit's current head coach. "He's got great leadership capabilities," he says. "He's a great player, great competitor, and has a great inner drive. He's a great real asset to our organization. He's going to help grind this organization into better days. Dylan has a fire inside of him, and that's one of his best attributes," he says. Minnesota, I had Jared Spurgeon. He's 30 years old. The last captain was MIKKO KOIVU. Can we just start by saying how extremely underrated this guy is? Like, obviously this video isn't about stats, as I said, but the last 82-game season, this guy put up 43 points. 43 points, and no one talked about it. He was also the 12th defenseman to ever score a natural hat trick last season, and no one talked about that either. Anyways, mini ran over. While he's not dropping the gloves every night necessarily, he's making the sacrifices elsewhere, like blocking shots, dishing out hits, things like that. Spurgeon has been with the team for over a decade, and he's still decently young, well, for captaincy anyways, so he could be there long enough to finish out his contract, which actually expires in 2027, so that's a ways away. So he's already kind of locked in long term. I didn't check on a clause for that, but he's also had experience being an assistant captain, and he's definitely well liked by the fan base. And I've had, Wild fans before just tell me how great Spurgeon is, how underrated Spurgeon is. They just seem to really, really like having this guy play for their team. So the all-around feel is that he's definitely fit in well, and he's definitely a key part of the team. Also added another quote, this one from his teammate Marcus Foligno. The thing about Spurge is he just says things at the right time and at the right moment. Definitely a guy, when he does speak up, everyone listens. It kind of reminds me, from what he said, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Shea Weber. He's a guy that doesn't really talk a lot, but when he does speak up, everyone listens. So maybe he is maybe a little bit similar, where he's kind of a quieter guy, but like whenever he does talk in the room, guys just kind of stop. They're just like, oh, and they all just stop and listen. So definitely something you want from a captain. captain. You want him to have that influence and to be well respected by his teammates. So to me, Jared Spurgeon definitely sounds like the guy that deserves to see the most. The New Jersey Devils, I had Nico Hischier. He's currently 21 years old, and the last captain was Andy Greene. Hischier is currently an alternate captain. He's got that going for him. He was drafted by the Devils. He's been there for a while. Obviously not the only reason for having him, but early on in his first game, he kind of set the tone. He was a rookie. It was his debut, and he just went after an opposing player that laid a bad hit on Kyle Palmieri. So in your rookie debut, for a player to do that in the rookie debut, I think it really says something about his willingness to just pitch in for his teammates, and that's definitely something you would want from your captain. He's also a great two-way player. Like I said, I think, at least in my personal opinion, that having a captain that does play a good two-way game is ideal. He's been there long enough to kind of see the team's evolution, things kind of fall apart and slowly kind of starting to rebuild, starting to come together. He's also not the flashiest player, which some captains really aren't. Like I mentioned, Nick Foligno, I don't see him as a flashy player, but him being captain does work out well. But he also does all the right things behind the scenes consistently. He's also signed up to 2027, so the Devils obviously have a lot of faith in this guy. The organization has a lot of faith in him to just sign him for that long. For St. Louis, I had Ryan O'Reilly. He's currently 29 years old, and the last captain was Alex Pietrangelo. So he came over from Buffalo in 2018, and pretty much as soon as O'Reilly became a Blue, he instantly became just a huge part of that team, huge part of the organization. He's been a leader on and off the ice, in my opinion. I mean, early in his career, I think that he just plays a tremendous two-way game, and his work ethic is just off the charts. He helped, obviously, the team win their first Stanley Cup. He was a big part of that. He won the Conn Smythe. In my opinion, I would have him like top 3 on just two-way forwards alone. But he seems to be a fan favorite. He's very reliable. He averages the most minutes as a forward on that entire team. So he's also got that going for him. But I think this one was one of the few that I was just like, oh yeah, like there's just no question, like this guy right here. So hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, it's not really scripted, but going on the feedback, I hope you enjoyed it.